Hello and welcome. My name is Errity Green and this is Wise Women Oracle and Tarot. And today I am bringing you a pick a card reading on your lessons mastered. So we are going to be going over your achievements and all that you have accomplished, your lessons mastered, your spiritual lessons mastered. So I do look forward to sharing this with you. If you find you enjoy, appreciate, resonate with this reading, please do like, subscribe, press the bell icon, check out the Leadership Mastery Academy below. It is linked below, events to come. And I think that's about it today for an introduction. So I will place a picture up of your 3 card piles to choose from. As always, you are choosing from left to right. Card pile 1, your lessons mastered. So right off the bat, I feel like you are learning to trust yourself. You're learning to trust those little feelings, those little discernible sort of impulses, gut instincts, whatever they are when you have this like something sort of maybe feels awry or off center or not quite right. Like you're learning to trust yourself and feel and trust that instinct. I really wish I had a better way to describe it, but that's all I have right now, where it's like you feel a little something, but you don't even know exactly what it is, but you're learning to trust it. There was another thing coming through here too. I also feel like, and I had to take a moment because I had 2 messages at the same time. I verbalized or vocalized one, I lose the other. So then I have to go back into a brief meditation to see what that was. And so the other one, I feel like you're also learning to discern the difference between fear and truth, where your mind might get cloudy, hazy, confused, noisy, chaotic, and you've started to realize, I mean, these are lessons mastered. So these are things now that you have a skill that you didn't once have, or an ability you didn't once have, and now you do. We are able to be like, oh, like that's not even me, like that's not even real, that's not even true, like that's just, right, the old BS, or that's just fear, or that's just self-sabotage or whatever, where you're able to recognize it's not your ultimate truth. I feel like so far, card pile 1, this is having to do with your intuition, your instincts, your feelings, gut feelings, like really finding discernment, I think, with your inner world and what those sensations mean for you when they arise. I imagine you've been through a time of deep introspection or reflection or inner work. That doesn't have to be true for everybody. It's not required for everybody. You could be sort of a water sign or gone through a season of your life that forced you to sort of be in the watery element of really learning your inner world. And again, learning to discern between these different sensations, thoughts, feelings, or whatever, just getting to know your own patterning and how things show up for you. I feel like you've become a much better gauge or barometer for your experience. And whereas you might have felt things before, they might have been clouded from previous experience or experiences, or even traumas, or you might have sort of gotten wrapped up in it and then not being able to see clearly, things like that. Now there's enough distinction, enough awareness, enough wherewithal for you to be like, okay, this is this, that is that, this is this. Like, okay, I know that's fear. Okay, I know that's like mental chatter. Okay, I know that's gut instinct or whatever, right? You probably don't even use these labels necessarily as you're living about your life. But I feel like you've become a clearer barometer, and your intuition is clearer, and your awareness of yourself and your inner world is significantly clearer. I almost feel like this also points to an ability to either be more psychic, empathic, or intuitive, and or this has already begun to develop and expand for you, because as you've begun to explore your inner worlds, what these sensations mean for you, what they imply or what they indicate, so on and so forth, you're then positioned to be able to gain psychic awareness and be able to use it in your everyday life. So if you haven't already experienced a psychic awakening of some kind, I would imagine it's right here at your doorstep, or it feels right here. I feel like it might even be already happening, underway, and you might not even know it yet because, right, we take our own experience for granted. We're living in our own lives in our own bodies, and so how do we know, right? You might be someone who is already pretty well informed, or at least connected to the human psyche to where you're able to pick things up. But it's only become like the past several years, I feel like the past season or chapter of your life, where you've been able to gather some discernment and knowingness within, some clarity about what it means. And like, when I feel this, it means this. When I feel that, it means that. When that's happening, that's not the, true me or whatever. And not to minimize or trivialize the parts of us or the different sensations of our inner world. In fact, I feel like you've gained a greater relationship with those parts, with yourself. It isn't about, judging and being like, oh, that's a problem, or this isn't good enough, or whatever. It's like, no, you've actually gained a better relationship with your inner world. And now sort of it's on your team, right? And you are now much more pronounced in terms of probably emotional intelligence, empathic awareness, and intuitive intelligence. And I feel like really that's key. Lessons mastered. I think it's coming into a greater spiritual or inner world awakening in terms of, a lot of times we go through a period of mastery in our outer worlds in 3D and the external. And I feel like you've been developing mastery in the inner world over the past chapters, seasons, or whatever of your life. So let's see what else is going on here. We're asking lessons mastered. So number one, I know there's a message of commitment, discipline. I feel like I almost want to pull a clarifier, but the message might come. So when I look at cards, sometimes I don't get something specific that I would like, that I would like to share with you right away. And so then I get to pull a clarifier card or see if it will come. We'll see if it comes first. Let me see. Okay, so I got what I needed. Sometimes I just need to pause as opposed to pulling a card. So I feel like you've been through a time of sort of feeling tested or being tested. Perhaps there was a course of action or a path that you were on. Perhaps there was something that you were aspiring toward or wanting to create or achieve, and it hadn't quite manifested yet or hadn't fully come to fruition. And I feel like you went through a time of being tested. You went through a time of basically having to, excuse me, I yawn. All of the interruptions for card pile one. Who knows? You went through a time of being tested, of being, it's like where you're kind of doing the thing and pushing forward and doing what you're supposed to do or whatever that is, and yet something's not resulting. I feel like there was something to be gained in that. Like, it's almost saying you've already done that work, right? There's a sort of reassurance and reminder that you did it. You did it, right? The worst is behind you. The hardest is behind you. It was an uphill battle. Now it's downhill from here. I feel like it's less of, this particular message here is less about like, oh, hey, there's something more for you to do. It's like, no, like, you've mastered this. You've mastered kind of hitting up against all the walls, hitting up against all the limits, pushing up against all the conditioning or whatever that stood in your way, right? It's like the video game where you have to fight this villain and then this one and then this one and then the big villain. And it's like, well, geez, this is really tiring here. I'm not getting anywhere. But I feel like you've done that. You've done that, card pile one. So it's like the worst is behind you. So from here forward, it's going to be easier. And from here, it's more of a downhill fall, right, than an uphill battle, meaning things are getting easier. So pushing the snowball uphill, and now it just gets to fall downhill. So lessons mastered. I feel like as a result of this, something new has been born. I feel like you might feel a renewed sense of energy or renewed sense of like new birth, right? Dawn, something different. There's something in your energy field or your awareness where you're like, okay, the light of a new day is here, right? A new dawn has arisen. There's something about, okay, because of what I've been through here, this inner awakening, psychic awakening, intuitive awakening, emotional awakening, plus having kind of done the work and done the work and done the work and done the work. And it's like it felt like nothing was happening or manifesting or coming as a result of it. I mean, right? It's like where you just keep going and going and your commitment, you're committed, and yet you keep being tested and you have to like push and push. Now it's like, because of that, something new has been born, and you recognize that what was happening before was a time of healing. So when we say lessons mastered, you've also gone through this healing period. Whatever you've been going through the past several years, right? This chapter that we've been speaking to, you can assume it is complete or finished, or at least very near complete, if not already at full completion. That time of healing is over. So congratulations, pat yourself on the back, give yourself a round of applause. You've done it. You've gotten through it. You even pushed through it. There were times where it was hard because you had to, like we said, push uphill, but now is the time for more ease, more flow, greater momentum, and even new manifestations, new chapter where you're actually seeing the fruits of your labor. So card pile 1, when we say the lessons mastered, it's that intuitive sense and that emotional intelligence and even psychic, intuitive, or spiritual awakening. It is having gone through a period of a lot of trials and errors, and just been pushing through and learning through that and navigating that. And as a result of moving through that time period of healing, now something new has been born, a rebirth. There's a potential available for you now that wasn't always here before. And so you can assume yourself on the other side of this. Not something you have to go through, not there's more to do, all this stuff. No, it's done. So card pile 1, I'm sure you're going to be happy to hear that, because based on the energy that's here and the message that's here, it's telling me like you've maybe even been wondering or waiting, like, when is this going to be over? What was the point of this? When am I going to actually see some results, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Your time of healing is over and new birth is here to arrive for you. All right, card pile 1, if this lands, resonates, like, subscribe, share your story in the comments. Of course, press the bell icon. And I want to thank you, card pile 1, and I will see you next time. Okay, card pile 2, your lessons mastered. So right off the bat, I'm seeing like you're allowing yourself to dream, or you're allowing yourself to dream again. So I don't know how this is necessarily a lesson mastered, but what this could tell me is that for a long time, or for a good chunk of time here, the past season of your life, perhaps you didn't let yourself dream. Perhaps you were in survival mode, just having to live moment to moment, and you weren't sure if you'd be able to dream again. The innocence of being able to daydream or dream, right? The innocence of being able to look to a vision. Ironically, there is a privilege in there because not everyone gets to daydream. You know, in terms of life and the trauma and the trials that can occur, oftentimes if you're in that space, you don't even have the privilege of dreaming, right? Because trauma's in the way, you don't even think it's going to happen for you. It won't happen for you. You're not lovable enough for it to happen for you. And even if you were, you're working so dang hard that forget it, you wouldn't be able to do it anyway. Do you understand what I'm saying? I'm not saying that was exactly your scenario, but it's like you've given yourself permission to dream again. Bing, you know, bada bing, bada boom, like that, like boom, rather, like that's your number 1 lesson mastered. You're letting yourself dream again. You're letting yourself go there. You're letting yourself bring in some innocence, some fresh air and fresh energy again. You sort of open the curtains after a long pause, or right. It just it moves me emotionally, because for a long time you might have been sort of an abandoned house with cobwebs and dark corners and very, relatively unkempt, or like it hadn't been inhabited. It hadn't been alive or lively. People hadn't rummaged through or been there to visit. Few people had come by to check in on the home. No one had arrived. There was no celebrations or rejoicing there anymore. Friends and family had gone. The love in that abandoned old house was gone. All there was nothing but memories and nostalgia and a hope for the past, but even more so, a resignation that this is what it was to become or was to be from here forward. And now someone has walked in and opened all of the windows in that house. The light is pouring in. The light is shining in. There's fresh air where there was once. Brings me a lot of emotion. There's fresh air where there was once a lot of old, dusty sort of energy. And it's almost like it was like empty, right? There wasn't aliveness there. There wasn't presence there. And now someone has come in and opened the windows. It was you. You went in and opened your own windows. I don't know if you could hear me, but you went in and you opened your own windows. It was you who decided it was time. It was time again to open the windows. It was time to let the sun in again, to let the light in again. It was time to make new memories and invite children to run around and play in there and make all the noise in the world, and invite friends and neighbors and the people in the community to join in on the fun. You decided it was time to live again. And so you might have been through a time of deep grief or mourning or something like that. Not going to be relevant for everybody, but for some of you, it likely will. Because I feel like there was perhaps a loss of some kind. For some of you, I feel like you actually lost a loved one through a death. And there was a long time where you lived in that abandoned home, meaning it could be actually physically, but you being the abandoned home. Lights off and no one's home. And the curtains closed so that no one else could come in and bother you either, right? And now you've decided it's time again, and you're willing to take the risk. You're willing to like we were saying earlier, almost touching on, you're willing to have the noise to enjoy the presence of children. You're willing to take the risk of hurt or pain to have other people in a part of your world, a part of your life. It's worth it to have the mess. And right, this is all metaphorical, because it's not necessarily that you care about the noise of the mess. It's like you're willing to go there and to allow what is to come or unfold or whatever, because having them there, or having the celebration, or having the joy or the connectedness is worth it. And so you've allowed yourself to dream again. You've opened up the curtains. You've opened up the windows. The light is pouring in again. I don't necessarily feel the dust and cobwebs being cleaned off just yet, but I feel like that's to come, and it's just a natural sort of unfolding, where it's like, but you've opened the door. It's almost like an open house, and new memories now, like it's a new era, a new chapter in your life, but it's almost like, it's time to make new memories. There might have been a period of life now where that is sort of dead and gone, whether it's metaphorical or literal. And now you're allowing yourself to make new visions and new memories. I just feel like the energy of innocence and children playing and joy and celebration and having others over, like kind of like holiday parties, family, things like that, where you'd once shied away from that, you're now making yourself available for it. Lessons mastered, you've let yourself come out of hiding. You've opened the windows, you've opened the light, and you're ready to live again. Okay, lessons mastered, card pile 2. Let me see here just a moment. Yeah, so I'm feeling the energy again of moving forward, of orienting yourself to the future and feeling like you have the support, that someone has your back, or people have your back, or it could be even spiritual support. You feel like you were held spiritually, and now you're ready to sort of take on a new adventure or a new life experience or a new beginning. And yeah, you're moving forward, you're advancing. And I feel like you're feeling inspired again as well, by the way. I feel like you have a sense of renewed inspiration and a sense of like, for some people it's like, okay, I'm going to write again, or I'm going to paint again, or I'm going to go to the beach house again, or whatever it is. But it could be new things. I'd like to try dancing for the first time, or I'm being guided to travel or take a sabbatical, whatever, right? But it's that energy of renewed inspiration where for a long time, again, lights off and nobody's home. It's like, okay, there's new life in there. There's new inspiration, and you are moving toward that and starting to get curious about it, starting to explore it a little bit, starting to experience it a little bit. And at this point, it's just unfolding. There is a message here about, let me see how I want to articulate this. Yeah, I feel like there is so even though this is your lessons mastered, meaning you've already mastered this, right? A chapter has closed. You've opened the windows to this home, to yourself, and you're allowing yourself to live again, be inspired again, and move toward the things that light you up or might light you up. I feel like there could be something where maybe you're a little embarrassed about being vulnerable, or like, because it doesn't feel like shame. It just feels like a little embarrassed or a little shy or a little unsure just yet. Like, oh, I want to do these things, but I'm not so sure, whether it's involving other people or putting yourself out there, it's like someone who loses a spouse and then after, let's say 5, 7, 10, 12 years decides to go out there, start dating again. That kind of same feeling of, I'm not so sure, and I know I want to, but I feel a little unsure of myself. And it's saying, don't let pride get in your way. It's like, you've already mastered this. You've already been there, done that, walked this road, dotted those I's, crossed those T's. It's okay now. Like it's okay, meaning like you've been there, done that, and have already found resolution in this, and you know where you want to go. So of course, support yourself along the way, but don't let pride get in your way to where you're unable to fully move forward in all the ways that you seek and all the ways that you desire. So card pile 2, the lessons mastered is, I feel like you're letting yourself dream again. You're letting yourself enjoy the innocence of life again, enjoy the aliveness again, or you've at least invited this to be a part of your experience now. You're making space for it, right? So maybe you don't quite have children running around and dinner parties, right? But you've made the space for it. You're actively making the space for it, and you're letting yourself move toward the things that move you, move toward the things that light you up, that inspire you. You're starting to find yourself again, the joys again, the things that you love about life again. You're sort of exploring those things in those corners and going on all of these little adventures. And, you've come out of that time, that dark tunnel, the hole, or whatever it was for you. You're here. You're alive and the world is your oyster. So I really feel like that's your overall message. Let's see if there's anything else here. I do feel like there's something that's going to come out of this experience that you'll end up sharing with others. I don't know for sure what it is. It can take a number of forms, but it was very clear when I looked down here. Perhaps you write a book about your experience. And I feel like whatever it is I'm getting ready to share is something that has already landed with you, or at least the peripheral, right? The periphery of it, like you've kind of touched the edges of it, even if you weren't sure, and it's saying, yes, like this is something. So maybe you end up writing a book or sharing your story with others, or being a part of, say, like a sponsorship circle or mentorship circle or peer support circle, or maybe you do become a counselor or a therapist. Something comes out of this. Whatever occurred with you where you grew in this way and went through this period, it's going to be something that you carry with you that ultimately becomes a gift, a contribution, or a service that you can offer to others. Whatever it is that you were thinking, what, is it a book? Is it a talk? Is it some kind of career or role or service or whatever? I do feel like you end up supporting others with similar situations, based on what you have learned. So do move forward on that. You're being given the green light for that. I also think it's connected to the bigger dream, and sort of an overall intention or mission or purpose for your soul was to bring forth this manifestation or creation or whatever. It could even be a new creative expression or art form. It doesn't necessarily have to be something that's shared, although I think other people will be involved or touched by this work in one way or another. But I do feel like something comes out of it that is relevant. And whatever it is that you are thinking right now is the thing. And that is what is meant to be done, manifested, achieved, experienced, whatever. The word wants to be written, whatever that is, right? Doesn't have to be literal. That can be metaphorical. All right, card pile 2. I look forward to hearing your comments. Do like, subscribe, or press the bell icon. I want to thank you for listening into today's reading, and I will see you next time. Ooh, card pile 3. What lessons have you mastered? So I feel like you are now understanding that you get to have what you want, that you can decide and make the choice to have what you want. Like, it's no one else's choice. It's not the system. It's not like all the things in the way, or like all the kind of excuses or limits we create for ourselves. Like, you get to have what you want, period. No ifs, no ands, no buts, no exceptions. You get to have what you want. That must be important for you, because clearly if it's saying your lesson is mastered, there was a time where you didn't believe you could have it, didn't believe you could create it, achieve it, experience it, but you have finally actually found that inner belief that you can have this, it can be yours, and it is yours, and it's really just yours to claim. There's another message here. Let me see. Your lessons mastered. Like, you get to have what you seek. It's not a question, it's an inevitability, and it's just a matter of you affirming and deciding that. I feel like you finally landed here where you're able to really own that and claim that and say it out loud, not just kind of think about it or kind of hope for it, but kind of doubt it and not really be sure of it and not really know, like kind of that, wibbly wobbly stuff. It's like, no, you actually believe that it can be yours, and that it's ultimately up to you to ensure it, but that if you sort of flick your finger or lift your finger, you get it, right? There's no working for it or earning for it. I mean, yes, you have to, you know what I mean? But I mean, you have to, of course, show up and implement and take action, but it's not like you have to prove your worth or value, or like question whether or not it gets to be yours, or those kind of things where we believe we have to like overdo it, overwork for it, strain ourselves. It has to be impossible, and we'd be bent over backwards and a pretzel like a gymnast or whatever, just to be able to receive something. That just speaks to our belief, our lack of belief in ourselves, and the belief in our unlovability or unworthiness. And it's like, no, you have finally anchored into here. Your lessons mastered. You get to have it. You get to have it. There was another message here though. One second. Oh, I feel like you learn to trust the process, card pile 3. So for a time there might have been, or a season of your life, or even the whole of your life up until now, you have believed like, you felt like you either needed to know right now, had to have some kind of certainty, that I feel like now you're starting to trust the process. You're starting to trust the flow. You're starting to trust divine timing. You're recognizing that the answers will come when they're meant to come. You're trusting that things will arrive as they're meant to arrive. Opportunities will arrive as they're meant to arrive. You don't have to force it, and you couldn't force it even if you tried. And that all you can do is attend to yourself and your own work. And then from there, the sort of quote unquote universe will deliver as it will, and based on what it delivers, you respond, you show up accordingly, and then that's how it keeps the ball rolling. So you've learned, I feel like, to trust life a little bit more, to trust in life a little bit more, and to trust in the process a little bit more, as opposed to either trying to control it or manipulate it, or it's like that strained kind of effortful thing when you don't believe, when you don't believe something can happen for you, you're going to be, again, twisting yourself into a pretzel, really straining, really striving yourself, working yourself to the bone, right? When you believe you can't have it, you're going to be doing ups and downs and like all the crazy stuff just to be able to secure it because you think you don't get to have it, right? So then it's like, oh, I have to do all these things in order to acquire this or secure this. But now when you're coming from a place of, oh, I get to have this, right? It gets to be easy. Yes, you still have to do things, but it's not going to be twisting yourself into a pretzel and forcing and manipulating and whatever to make it happen, because you're not having to convince yourself of your value or your worth or of your deservingness to have it. Does that make sense? It's like, let's just imagine someone who has low self-worth, who has a very high paying job. Let's just say all that's required of them is a 40-hour work week. And instead you find them working 55-hour work weeks. You see them staying at work until 9 and getting to work at 6 a.m. and giving the boss all these, showing up with coffee for everyone and holiday gifts, but it's not necessarily genuine. It's because that person believes they're not worthy of that high value paycheck. So they're going to have to twist themselves into a pretzel to prove their worth, right? But when they actually allow themselves to have it, all that other whatever extra behavior that was, an unnecessary behavior, stops. And not only are they more relaxed and at ease, and they're just allowing themselves to receive without having to work for it or earn it or be something different, better, or improved or enhanced or whatever in order to experience whatever it is that's there. But on top of that, you actually get to see them genuine and sincere and see who they really are. Then they can give more genuinely. So maybe they don't show up with coffees from Starbucks every morning at 6 a.m. for all the workers in the building, but instead they show up once a month with a few coffees for these people, and the next month is a few coffees for these people, and then since holiday cards, but not maybe elaborate gifts, or whatever it is, but you just know it's something more genuine and sincere because it's authentic and it's real and it's true. It's not them trying to perform or convince themselves or anybody else of their worth and value. Okay, so you've mastered that, card pile 3. You have mastered this. You no longer have to earn to be worthwhile or prove that you are valuable or do all the things, right? Or become something really elaborate and special just to get what you want. It just gets to be yours. That's a pretty big lesson, right? I feel like you've learned some deep lessons in shadow work in terms of recognizing the deeper meanings or hidden gems or values of things. I feel like you've learned to work with yourself and work with your own patterning and your own psychology clearly, seeing it clearly, seeing others clearly. I feel like you've gained a significant wisdom about humans, how we tend to operate and how we tend to develop these coping strategies and defense mechanisms that create this mask or facade. That's how we operate in the world. That's our personality. But ultimately, all of us have this inner vulnerable, we could say, inner child within us who just wants to be and have fun and express and enjoy, but then oftentimes even so, feels shy and scared and unsure and unsure of itself. And so I feel like you've developed a really great awareness as to how you operate, but also how others operate, and you're able to see coping strategies, defense mechanisms for what they are, facades for what they are. You're able to see someone's sort of psychology at work, yourself as well, because you saw this in yourself and learned so much about yourself. You're now able to see it very clearly in others and sort of identify people's shadows. And I feel like you're good at doing that with yourself too. And as well as finding a use of it, right? Making it powerful. Right, we tend to sort of demonize or make our issues or even defense coping strategies, whatever, like I was saying, a problem. But in truth, they can all be used intelligently. They can all be used wisely. There's a mastery here, right? Lessons mastered, shadow work done, like you've done it. Everything that there is to know, you now know, right? At least for this chapter where you are in your life now. And now it's moving forward with that wisdom, right? Having sort of quote unquote integrated that wisdom. Now you're moving forward with a greater level of awareness, intelligence, instinct, and discernment, because you know how you operate, you know how others operate, and you're able to show up and be more authentic. I feel like because of this level of sincerity, of connecting to your authentic self, you're now in a position where you're not really expecting so much of other people, that you just are able to give freely and generously to others, to where it's like, again, like we talked about, you're able to show up at 6 a.m. because you want to, and because whatever, if you want to, not because you are proving or convincing or trying or striving or whatever, but just because it's natural to you and something that unfolds. Like you might be full of love or full of a greater desire to give or to share, because you're no longer needing no longer needing the world to like perform for you, right? You're no longer needing the world to show up for you in certain ways or give back to you in certain ways or validate you in certain ways. Like, some of those things are nice and there's nothing wrong with even that, but it's just a matter of, you're not requiring the world to show up in any particular way to be happy. And so you're just able to give from a much more authentic and genuine and sincere place, where it's much easier and you're happier and everyone else is happier. And you're just recognizing the joy of that space, of being able to show up authentically, be yourself, authentically communicate, so on and so forth, without needing the world to even be any of those things. And it doesn't mean you engage with everyone, right? It doesn't mean that, okay, keeping up with the same example, you're going to be friends or intimate partners with every single person at your workplace because you've now accepted everyone. No, it just means you're able to be authentic in yourself and allow others to be authentically themselves, no matter who they are, whether beggar on the street, customer at Starbucks, or coworker or partner, right? There's a freedom in that. Freedom for them, freedom for you. I also feel like you have a better handle or management of your emotions, in terms of you recognize when things aren't necessarily true to the moment, or maybe truer to your history. You're able to take responsibility for your emotions and your feelings. You're able to recognize when maybe you've made something bigger molehill to mountain than it needs to be. I feel like you're able to see this in others as well, and identify when they are acting out of their wounding, or projecting their wounding, or putting something on you that isn't your responsibility. I feel like you are in a much more emotionally intelligent, emotionally mature, and emotionally intimate place than you've probably ever been in your life. You recognize that these are your allies and your friends and your neighbors, your emotions are, and they're simply there to help guide you and support you and stand with you and stand by you. They're not enemies or even frenemies or something to do away with or get rid of. Instead, they're partners in crime, so to speak, and they have wisdom and support to offer you when they're being used wisely, right? It's like, you're still the driver of the bus, but they are all welcome as passengers, right? You just recognize that emotions have a communication or language of their own. They are purposeful, and you know how to work with them more skillfully now. Last but not least, I feel like you've developed a deeper and truer connection with yourself, in terms of who you are, what you want, where you want to go, where you want to go from here, what you want from here, what you don't want from here. I feel like you're just much more deeply intimate and connected with your true self, again, versus the part of you or the version of you that used to strive and try to be and try to convince and try to perform and all these things to be something for everybody else. It's like now you're just being more authentic and true to you. And you might even be still discerning this, right? But you have mastered it in terms of recognizing what isn't you. And now you're in a position to continue to return to you, to discover what you, in fact, are. So what lessons have you mastered? Card pile 3. You've recognized you get to have what you want and you get to claim it as yours. No work required. Yes, there's action required, but it doesn't have to be hard, unless you're trying to convince yourself or the world or life or others of your value. You've developed a pretty strong awareness of shadow work and how to look at yourself and other people. And there was something here. So you've become sort of like a master at shadow. You're able to just see yourself clearly now and see others clearly now and work with yourself more skillfully. You become more generous and authentic, especially with how you relate to others. You are more emotionally intimate and intelligent and work with those more skillfully as well, and honor them in their presence and your experience. And you are listening to yourself now, knowing yourself better than ever before. All right, card pile 3, if this lands, resonates, like, subscribe, press the bell icon. Do keep in touch. Thank you, card pile 3, and I will see you next time.